Okay, so I've got my floor plan starting to come together, and of course I've got the sections there that I've already drawn, but I want to show you how I've drawn them. So I'm actually going to do a new one, maybe below what I've already done. And here, that's actually just something extra that is actually a useful thing, so I'm going to move that just quickly off to the side. Okay, so you need to have an existing section and a proposed section. And I'll bring that up later. So I'll start maybe with an existing section, and I'm just going to pan across though to my proposed floor plan though, because there I've already got my section markers. And for those, you can use the families that we've got in the library, not families, sorry, I'm thinking Revit, the blocks that we've got in the library will work. But you can probably tell already here that I've actually just drawn circles and lines and text, because once you can draw comfortably in AutoCAD, you can knock things like that out in no time. It's just a circle with a few lines. So I don't mind how you do it, but if you again want to use the blocks in the AutoCAD library folder, that might take you a little bit of time, so I'll get those by going to Insert, More Options, Browse, and then I've actually got a new folder here, 2019 blocks, where I've just been putting the new things that I've been making. And you can see there I've actually got 4 different section symbols now. So those are all sections, section reference symbols. So Ref Sec 50 East, Ref Sec 50 North, South and West. So it's just for all the different directions. And maybe I'll insert them all. And now, sorry, I've made a mistake. Okay, that's stupid of me. That was blameless. Okay, so I've made those from a drawing that was of a different scale, and that wasn't very smart of me. Okay, so I'm going to go and open those up, and I'll just change the name to match the scale that it is. And this is probably good for you to see, because then you'll have a better idea about scale with AutoCAD. Okay, so it's 50 across, which means if it was, God, I can't even think today, would have been about 5, so that's 1 to, oh no, it would have been 10, so 1 to 5, I think it was set for. Yeah, pretty sure it's 1 to 5. So, okay, that's all we need to know. So, I'm going to fix these on the fly as I do them, and then you'll be able to use them. So, they should have been set up for 50, but because when I was demonstrating with one of my other classes on Tuesday, we were doing 1 to 5 details, and so I set them up for that scale. So now I've changed the name, and so what that means is it's a reference, sec means section, and then 5 is the scale they've been set up for. And then east, north, south and west are just the different directions. So I'll insert that now, and what I'm going to do then is tick uniform scale and change that X value to 10. And there we are, so now you can see it's the right size. And I suppose the one advantage of these section symbols is that you can type in your own text. So I might be drawing one on sheet A101. So that all goes in. And notice the colour there is set by the current layer. So it's on this wall stud layer, that's why it's that funny colour, but I can easily change that to my correct annotation layer, and you can see that also fixes the line rate. But that's the east section. So it's got the arrow pointing to the right. So I'll go and insert another one just so you can see when I browse, and get the north section. That's what I really want. And again, type in 10 for the scale factor. If it's not clear why, it's because I want to have this drawing at 1 to 50 and it was set up for 1 to 5. I'm going to make it 10 times bigger. And again, I keep forgetting to change the current layer, so I'll do that in a second. So A101, it might be on the same sheet. Okay, again, just change that to the correct layer. So blocks can definitely be helpful for things like this. Again though, if you want to just draw the lines and make your own section marker, that works fine, and obviously that's what I've done here. And what I also want to show you quickly before we get into projecting is, we'll just remind you maybe how to draw things like doors, because again, if you try to rely on blocks for those things, it can be helpful in some cases, but you're always going to have doors and windows that aren't in the library that you'll need to be able to draw yourself. So I'm going to go to my correct wall layer and just draw a line and then offset, I don't know, 100 from there, and then offset again to 900 to create my door opening. And so that is always the process you should use for every window and door you ever create in AutoCAD. Draw the wall first and then make your opening. And here I'm just using the move tool so that I can move this up maybe 50 mil to make it more centered in that hallway. And then I'm going to use trim, and I'll just press enter, make everything a cutting edge, and pick the parts I want to take away. So that's the critical thing. The things I'm going to draw next inside the opening aren't as important, but the opening size is critical. And then going to the door layer that I've got here, I'll just use that one. I've got a few door layers, of course, and that's normal after you've drawn a few things. So I could also have used the door frame timber layer, would have been just as good. Yeah, in fact, I will use that one. Okay, so I'm going to draw a door jamb, and for this drawing you're doing presentation drawing, you're not doing construction drawing, so you draw a simplified door jamb. So do you all remember the thickness of a door jamb? What's the standard? Exactly, spot on, yep. So 40 is the important one. 100 is the other direction that's standard as well, but I might make it a bit different, you'll see why. So I'm going to start there, come up 40, and then coming across to the left, because this wall's a bit thicker, it's 130, so I'm just going to make it 130. Again, we're trying to keep it as simple as possible graphically, and so that's the idea there. And so 130, and then back here. So I've got my nice simple door jambs, and then I'm going to draw, I'll do a rectangle from the corner down to the left, and because it was a 900 opening and we came in either side 40 mil for the door jambs, that means the door must be 820, but we're going to the left, so it's minus 820 to make it go left, comma, and then do you know what standard door thickness should be? I didn't know it's, I thought it was. Yeah, 40 is not far off actually. 40 is all right. If you're doing it 40, that's fine. 35 is the one that they often use as well. Yeah, so I'll just make it 35, but 40 is fine. So yeah, minus 35 because I want it to go down, right from the corner point. So down is obviously that way. So I've got my door, and then I've got a layer for my door swing, which I'll just change to, and then Danny, if you remember the arc option that's best for drawing door swings? Yeah, exactly, that's good. Yep. So I just wanted to, hopefully revise these things. So that's good. So yeah, start centre end. So here I'm going to start on the back of my door. Always draw your door swing from the back, not from the front. And then the centre is going to be where the hinge would be, where the door touches the door jamb. And then, because ortho's on, it's trying to just snap to a right angle. But if you turn ortho off, you'll see the door jamb, or the swing, sorry, coming around. And by default, it goes anti-clockwise. But have you ever seen this where you want to make it go the other way? So here it's going around this way. So I'll show you, since you all seem pretty okay with this. Exactly, that's right. And if you forget, they're pretty good now at giving you the prompt down the bottom. So you can always see there, hold control, and that makes it go the opposite way. And that can be helpful. So there we are, so I've drawn my door. That's how easy it is. So don't always try and rely on blocks for things like that. If you don't have a block for it, just draw it. And the same with the symbols. And then when we get to do the sections, there's going to be a lot of that. So now, again, I'll come back to my existing plan. And so what you also need to think about when you start to draw the sections is that you'll have the existing plan, which is hopefully getting to a stage something like this, even though you don't have to draw all of this side. Right, so just focus on the area around the room itself. Then you'll need to copy that over to one side, and then think about maybe changing the layers of the walls, particularly, so that you have them on an existing layer, and that is what I've called it. So I've got there, here we are, a layer called existing, which is blue, because that's the colour I was trained to use for existing things. You can use whatever colour you want. But the key thing there is that it's got a lighter line weight. And so you can see that all of the things that are existing have that blue colour, and so they stand out. And then the new things stand out even more because they're coloured differently. But that's the way you should start it. So again, keep your layers with the separate and different materials for your existing drawing, but then when you copy it across, maybe I'll just turn off the other things so you can see how I began it. Right, so I'll just turn them off. And so I'll just get rid of the doors. And what about, by the way, the other wall? Okay, so I'll just get rid of all this. There we are. So that's most of it turned off. There's a few things I've still got to hide, but hopefully you can see there that it was basically the existing plan, and then I just selected everything and changed it to, select all these things, changed it to that existing layer, and then drew the new things on the correct layer for all the different materials. So that's the stage you want to be at when you then go to start drawing your sections. And by all means, put in the section markers like I have there if you want to make it clear. Put one on the other side. Just copy that over there. I'll maybe bring it up so that my door in the corridor doesn't get in the way of my symbol. There we go, it's still going to work just as well if the section's taken from there. And to do the little extensions, drawing some extra little lines. So I'll just do that, drawing the line across. Alright, so then we'll just start projecting the section. And for that, I'll just make a start on it. I've already got the layers made, and I've got here one called A-Floor Concrete. So if you want to see how I set that up, it's simple as just green with the 0.4 line weight. Then I'm going to draw a line somewhere above that floor plan that I'm projecting from, with enough room to fit the section across. So that line there, maybe that's a little bit close to my floor plan, so I might just move that up a little bit. That might be better. Okay, so that line, of course, represents my concrete floor, the top of it. I'm just going to keep zooming into my drawn section so that you can see. So it's this line here that it represents, that line of the floor. The carpet will go on top of that, but we'll add the carpet right at the end. So that other line above, that's just the carpet. So this is the important one, that's the structural flaw. So you decide where that begins. Then you can start projecting and start with the things that you understand. So I'm going to go to my wall masonry cut layer, which again I'll just show you is that colour 11 that I like to use for brickwork, and 0.4 is the line weight. Okay, so when I say draw things that you understand, this wall on the left with the window in it is quite difficult to understand. We've got architects who've been working for 30 years who've dealt with this one and still don't understand it. I don't. It's not that difficult to draw, but I'll just show you why it's hard to understand, because it's got this unusual cavity and then the concrete on top of that that makes the windowsill, and then the window of course sits on top of that. And there's some unusual flashing there, so it's all a bit complicated. So I'd do that one second, but the wall on the right, much easier to understand. It's just a single brick wall. So that's easy. So I'll be starting there. So now I can draw a line from the intersection of my section line or a section marker and the wall that I've drawn in plan, snap into that intersection, and then take it straight up and take it past the line that I've just drawn for the floor. So then I'll repeat that. There'll be a lot of repetition. Draw another line from the other side. Okay, so from the inside of my wall, I'll snap to that intersection and project it up to above my floor line. And then I don't know how high to bring that, so I'm just going to take it up above somewhere by eye. So then before I attempt to tidy that up, I need to know how high the, well, we can work out the height of this beam really by guesswork, but the way you get to that is by knowing the height of the ceiling, which you should have from the measurements that you took a little while back. But if you don't have those handy, I'll tell you what it is now, or what I worked it out as. So I'm just going to measure, and so what is it? 2615, and so to the ceiling it was like 25 something, let's say, yeah, 2550. So that's what I need to know. So 2550 to the ceiling, and so maybe I'll just do that first because that's one that you could have worked out. So 2550 is what I'm offsetting from that line, clicking above, and then I'll offset again, and this time 2615 from the floor, clicking above. So I've got those two new lines there. So that it's not confusing, I'll change the bottom one to the correct layer, and that's going to be one of my ceiling layers. So our ceiling there will do for now. Right, and so then of course the green line represents the concrete, the beam, which sits on top of this brick wall. So that means now I can finally use trim, and I'm going to select my green line, that's where I want the wall to stop, press enter, and then choose the two wall lines that I want to trim. Then I'll use trim again, and this time I'll pick that wall line on the inside, press enter, and then choose the ceiling line to trim in. And then maybe just so that it's even clearer, I'll use trim again, and then choose this line that represents the floor, and again enter, and then trim those two lines so they stop at the floor. And so then we've worked out the wall on that side in section. So I'm just going to do a couple more examples, hopefully that'll be enough. So I'm going to go then to my, well, I've got a few different layers that I could use here. I'll use the concrete column projection layer that I've already set up, and maybe I'll show you that one because I think you might not have seen this. Okay, so you can see there most of the layers that I have like here the door frame, concrete floor, lots of others. I've got the original layer, and then there's a projection layer. So is it clear why you need those two layers for many of the object types that you draw? Exactly, that's it. That's right. So you can get two line weights for the same thing. And it's depending on whether it's in projection or whether it's cut, essentially. So if it doesn't say what it is, then usually you can assume it's cut. But there's no problem if you want to make it clear for yourselves, and I can do this myself. Put the cut in there, so that's clear. But again, so I've got that projection layer, and that's the layer I want to draw my line on, because looking at the section here, we're looking up towards that column. It's not being cut by the section line, but of course we'll still see it just in projection. So I'm going to draw a line from that corner of the column, take it up, and partly because we don't really know at this point exactly what structure there is above the column there, but also because it's not so important, I'm just going to take that to the floor above for now. Really, all I want you to see there is that we've got the column there with a nice light line weight showing that it's behind the wall, and then again I'll trim and use the floor line there to trim it back. So that gives us the column. The beam that's above is tapering the way I've drawn it there, but I haven't gone and taken measurements to draw that. I just went and had a look in the cupboard where you've got the fire hose wheel and basically drew it by eye. And that's how anyone would do it, because it's very difficult to measure things like that, but also, again, we're not rebuilding it. We don't need to give exact measurements. But I will give you the measurements that I've used. So, again, just using the measure tool there. So I'm going to draw a line from measure from that corner to this one here, measuring along the diagonal. And then, I don't know if you've noticed this, I've probably shown you before, that it gives you the delta X and the delta Y. And that's extremely helpful. Otherwise, you'd need to use the distance and the angle, which I think is harder. So with the X and the Y value, we can get that angle. So I'm going to round that off to 250 by 535. Okay, so coming back to here, right, so the column starts, or the beam starts from this intersection, so that's there. Okay, so what is it again? 250, 535. Right, so I'm going to draw a line from that intersection of the top of the column and my floor, or my green line. And I'll turn ortho off just so that you can see the angle more clearly. And I've already forgotten that, 250, 535. Okay, so here, 250, comma, 535, enter. Straight away it gives us the angle, because we're of course coming across 250 and then up 535. So, maybe now I'll show you a really good trick. Using fillet, I'll join that new line with the previous line underneath. And then I'm going to do fillet again and join that same line with the wall on the left. So I've essentially just shortened that line so that it's going between the column and the wall, which is also where the other side of the column would be. And I did all of that so that now I can select my diagonal line and mirror using the midpoint of that line. Just turn ortho on and get a straight vertical line to get the other side of my tapered beam. So I will give you the values for the slab above. You might want to check the measurement you took for the main ceiling. I'll give it to you as well, but have a look at yours and see what you got there. So there I'm just going to measure so I can see it's 3150, and then the next is let's see, 150. Now don't take this as gospel because I haven't gotten in and measured that slab that's behind the ceiling. I just worked that out by guesswork and experience. So I'm offsetting again 150 because I know that this slab would be about that thick, but I haven't taken a measurement to work that out. But here I'll use trim again, and this time the shortcut enter to make everything an edge and just trim in between those lines. Okay, so that's given you most of the section for the right hand side. Like I said, the left hand side's a bit more involved, but as long as you've made a start on it, we can go over that, and maybe we'll spend a decent amount of time on looking at that particular detail next week, because it is a bit involved. If you do start to project, you can definitely project the main lines, so the inner lines that you're most concerned with to be able to do your design. It's the interior dimensions that you really need to look at. So just drawing a line from the inside edge of the window. Remember, the window always is going to be sitting on a wall, so we're drawing the wall here that sits under the window. And so that would have been fine, but I'll just draw it the right way from this section line, intersecting with the window, in the same line, of course. And I'm just going to take it up to roughly where I think that would finish, out there. Okay, so that gives you a basic setup to work out the rest of the room, and if you want to, you can start to tidy up these lines at that point and make it a bit neater. Maybe to finish off, I'll just remind you about the stretch command. So with stretch there, stretch, I'll go from, as always, right to left, enter, snap to a point that you want for your base point, and then come across, and you can see I can bring all those lines back together. Okay, so maybe very last thing, I'll just fillet these together so that it's starting to look like a bit more of a clean section. There you go. The basic principle is projecting, so I can draw a line there that maybe is just going to make it all clear again, or clearer. If I draw a line here from this this duct, taking it up now to my, we'll just go to this ceiling. That's not the main ceiling line. Just make sure that's clear to you, and I better put that in actually because that's going to be confusing. 370. So that's important. So I better just offset 370 from this ceiling line. And again, this is one of those measurements you could have taken, but if you don't have it, 310 is what I've used. It's about 300, so that's close enough. Right, so again, onto my ceiling layer. I'm just filleting these lines together. And all of that was just so that I could show you this line that is, again, from that duct. Now can be trimmed back to stop just at the floor. And you can see that's pretty much what that side of the room looks like. With the wall, the ceiling coming down, and again that duct there visible. So that's really all I wanted to show you, unless there's any questions about that. Again, the best way to take it from there is just to try it and see how it works for you. Most people work out their own little methods as well when they're doing this, as long as you've got the basic idea. So yeah, maybe just give some time to work on it.